Well, hi everyone. Welcome to the April 8th, 2024 City Council meeting. We've got Councillor Stepina online and hopefully Mayor Blackburn will be joining us online later, but otherwise I'm filling in as the senior most council person. So if you could all remember to turn off your cell phones, we'll start with the land acknowledgement statement. As we meet tonight, let us remember that today we are stewards of land that has been home to Indigenous peoples for thousands of years before the recent arrival of the European heritage dominant culture. We honor this land's ancestors as we go about our business today. And then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, thank you. Abigail, do we have any agenda additions or corrections?
We do not. Thank you.
Then we will start with business from the audience. So folks who have signed up in person, I think many have already know, but we'll do a few minutes per comment. And Jen, was there anyone who signed up online? Okay, so when I call your name, I'll have you come up here, and if staff can just turn on the microphone, that'd be great. Thank you. And we will start with Susan Crowley, please.
Hi. I'm Susan Crowley. I'm here to speak on the ceasefire issue again. The national movement favoring a Gaza ceasefire is growing. You may not be aware that just a few days before your last meeting, 19 US senators, including Senator Merkley, our senator, but not including Senator Wyden, and sent a letter to President Biden asking for both a ceasefire and movement to a two-state solution. That letter I'm going to attach for you. Senate Majority Leader Schumer, who is Jewish, also spoke out to ask for the same, although he asked for a temporary ceasefire. At your last meeting, the mayor and councilors Zandmiller, Paulson, and Saunders declined to indicate support for a proposed Gaza ceasefire resolution. I didn't speak at that meeting because we were urged not to occupy the council's valuable time. So I sent an email to you, and in case you didn't see it, since there's still an ongoing crisis with at least 1,000 more Gazans dead since that last meeting, I'm reading a short version of the email to you now. The question of why, with so much on the city's plate, this is appropriately a question for this council's time, and why it might matter at all seemed to be one of special concern. Reverend Boonstra cited to you the power of members of the U.S. House of Representatives to submit local citizens' resolution to Congress on important matters over which local governments have little or no control, which you assert is you. Rules of the US Senate offer a similar option. One may argue this is merely symbolic, but it's not. It has power because although our Senator Merkley has been assertive and outspoken in calling for an immediate permanent ceasefire in Gaza, Senator Wyden has not. Wyden has declined to do so despite the deaths to date of over 32,000 at that time. 2/3 of the children. Wyden has considerable seniority, status, and power in congressional affairs. He's expert in media messaging. He himself is Jewish and a longtime supporter of Israel. Because of this, anything that may move him in the direction of advocating for a permanent ceasefire would be extraordinarily meaningful in terms of influencing the actions of both the president and Congress. Every step forward is a step forward. On March 11th, I sent Wyden an email asking him to simply give me a statement of his current position on a ceasefire. He has not responded. There's no mention of Gaza on his official website. Silence in the face of these Gaza horrors is complicity. That's true for Senator Wyden, and it's true for us all, including you. Please speak up and ask him, through the resolution proposed to you, to advocate openly for a permanent ceasefire to prevent more carnage in this sad and very senseless conflict. And this is not the first time you'll hear from us on this.
Hey, this is Paul Blackburn.
Hi, Paul, can you hear us?
Yes, I hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Great.
We're doing
Thank
business with the audience right now.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. John Boostra next.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the council, and Paul, wherever you are out there. I'm John Boonstra, Hood River resident for 18 years. I am showing up here again to implore you to reconsider the council's silence in the face of genocide, and whether or not the silence in the face of genocide is really the best way to model leadership and to display needed moral courage to our neighborhoods. If someday I'm asked, what did you do when Gaza was the target of genocide? I'd like to be able to say that not only I, but also everyone at every level where I live in Hood River did what we were capable of to end it, that we went beyond our normal agendas, and that we did not go silent. A city resolution on permanent ceasefire declares that it is our job to take the needed time and speak out against our funding of state-sanctioned mass murder. I heard today it's 75 kids a day. We must not continue to arm Israel with our tax dollars from Hood River to provide an unconscionable arsenal of munitions, bombs of all sizes, guns, and fighter planes. We must not normalize ignoring the orders of the World Court and the United Nations. We must not continue to tolerate Israel blocking humanitarian aid into Gaza by ground and defunding the UN's Agency for Actual Aid while people die of starvation. I invite you as servants of our community to remember that city business extends beyond our neighborhoods. It's always our ethical business and moral responsibility to speak out against genocide. I urge you strongly to rise to the teachings of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Standing silent in the face of genocide in Gaza weakens the very threads that hold together the sacred fabric of our community here in Hood River. Thank you.
Amira Malik next.
Hello, John. I'm Amira Malak. I've been a Hood River resident for 15 years, a teacher and parent. I'm here to bring the request for a ceasefire resolution back to the forefront and request a revote. At the last meeting, the voting seemed a little bit haphazard. Tim was missing, and it was unclear how the final count was made. In addition, the urgency of this issue has not changed. I would like to deeply thank the 3 council members who voted yes. And I would like to address those who voted no. I'd like to talk about the concept of betrayal trauma. There is trauma we experience by witnessing and experiencing violence directly. And there's a secondary trauma known as betrayal trauma when others do not speak up. There is a form of betrayal trauma that is called institutional betrayal trauma, and this includes professional relationships and social support systems in categories such as employers and lawmakers. Betrayal trauma changes how we exist in community. Without this resolution passing, betrayal trauma will be deep and will forever change how many of us exist in this community. I will say I don't personally feel as safe knowing that this city council has not passed this resolution. I also feel betrayal trauma based on feeling shamed for speaking up by certain members. So I'd just like to ask that you reconsider and do a revote for the ceasefire resolution. And just to make it still feel like community here. Because right now it's not feeling safe. Thank you.
And Vicky Stifler.
Good evening, members of the council, Mayor Blackburn. My name is Vicky Stifter. I'm a resident of Hood River for more than 16 years. I'm a mother, and I serve as the minister of Riverside Community Church, United Church of Christ down the street. Thank you for your leadership. I'm grateful for the time and attention that you give to issues that impact our city economically, materially, and morally. Since we gathered in this room 2 weeks ago, the death toll in Gaza has risen as of this morning to 33,175 human beings. This number includes more than 14,500 children who are represented today by these empty shoes. Starvation is widespread. Mothers cannot produce milk for their newborns. Children, if they are lucky enough to find it, are eating birdseed and animal feed. As my local elected officials, I return today to urge you to speak out on behalf of an immediate and permanent ceasefire. There are some moments in history that require all people of conscience, everywhere, at all leadership, at all levels of leadership, to speak out. With the genocide unfolding in Gaza, supported by revenue generated in our city, the moment is now. I wonder, would you stay silent if our tax dollars were being used to support the killing and starvation of tens of thousands of Jewish families in Israel? If weapons paid for by Hood River residents were killing aid workers trying to feed starving Jewish children, would you continue to say that it is outside your realm of concern because it is far away, because it concerns a matter of foreign policy? I urge you again tonight, as my leaders, as our leaders, to do everything in your power to stop this genocide. Join with the leaders of more than 100 communities across the nation, people just like you in towns big and small who are calling for a ceasefire now. Show our youth and children what this community stands for. Show us what courageous moral leadership looks like. Do not, please, I implore you, do not let silence be your final word. Thank you.
Thank you all. We have anyone else that was it? We haven't had anyone else walk in. Okay, so we are moving on to presentations. Chief Holsty, I see you back there. I believe you have some news.
Yeah, Abigail asked me to come this evening. So, yeah, just wanted to recognize, I don't know if anybody follows the Facebook, but we were recognized by this, it's a Oregon DUI task force organization for the state of Oregon. Our police department was nominated one of the 3 that won the award for a DUI Department of the Year. It was Jackson County, Oregon State Police out of Portland, and small town Hood River. It wasn't based on numbers. It was based actually on the quality of work and the investigations and such. I mean, there are a lot of those agencies that arrest a lot more DUIs than us, but one of our nominations was due to our diligence, our investigations, and the fact that that we've went to court on a number of DUIs and haven't lost a case in as long as I can remember. So we do very diligent stuff. And then the second was Emma Lake, Sergeant Delancey, in 2021 was nominated and won DUI Officer of the Year. 2023, he was nominated and won DRE, Drug Recognition Expert of the Year. So that was only one person that was given out to the state of Oregon. And again, Hood River PD won it. That in that particular, the drug recognition evaluation, I think it's, what is it? Out of 1% of all law enforcement actually have that certification. It's a very intense program and training. So it's more of a medical part of it. And that's due for evaluation of drugs that impair. And which is about 40% of our DUIs are actually impairment drug only. And then you've got the alcohol that includes the drugs as well. So, but the drug only is about 40%. So, yeah, so we just wanted to recognize that accomplish what we got. Questions?
Well, first I'll say thank you to Sergeant Delancey, and it sounds like the entire police department for really high quality work.
Thank you.
Any questions from others?
I don't have a question, but I do just want to take a moment to express gratitude and appreciation, not only for you three that are here today, but for the police department for your outstanding service. And you know, there's a reason why this award was given to all of you. And as a citizen, I appreciate the commitment to protect and serve. Often in difficult and challenging situations, especially you and your team are responding to, you know, domestic violence calls, averaging over 200 calls a week, dealing with theft, being first on scene when somebody's potentially murdered or suicide. There's a variety of times that you're all responding. And I just want to recognize that you're in a field where there is a lot of scrutiny. And I appreciate the commitment that you all show to simply protect and serve our residents here. Yeah, no other questions or comments for me, just appreciate you. And Officer Delancey, you know, this is now the third award that you receive. And so I think that's incredible, and that we are lucky to have someone like you who is continuing to keep our streets or our community safe by making sure that you are responding and stopping those individuals from driving impaired and, you know, potentially hurting other individuals in our community. So definitely want to recognize you and your commitment to Hood River.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sam, just want to say thanks for doing quality work and look forward to keep doing quality work. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Doug or Paul, any questions or comments?
Thanks. No, I'm good.
Sorry, Paul, you want to go first? Paul?
No questions. I'm good. Thanks, Megan.
Doug?
Yeah, I'll echo the sentiments of my fellow counselors. Appreciate the hard work that's been put into doing this and, you know, keeping our streets safe. I'm wondering if you could comment a little bit. You know, you mentioned 40% are drug related and recognizing drugs, et cetera. We certainly hear from the Hood River County District Attorney that, you know, fentanyl plays a great deal in a lot of what's being prosecuted, though it's not accurately captured so much in terms of the data that we have, because it's, you know, for low level possession, not so much crime. But this is an area where, you know, I think it is achievable in the data. So how many of these crimes are you seeing, you know, for impairment that are related to fentanyl specifically? If you have a not specific statistic, but a general understanding.
Expert. So if we take the 40% and we take that as a whole, so out of that 40%, the 100%, I would say about 85% of all the impairment has some fentanyl base. So most times when folks are impaired, they will have methamphetamine and fentanyl, or they may have a dissociative anesthetic, which is ketamine and fentanyl. I arrested a gentleman who was driving recklessly and was called in by the hotel staff because his driving was so bad. He had ketamine in the system, which is a dissociative anesthetic. He had methamphetamine in his system. He had cannabis in his system. And he was actually selling. He admitted to being here to sell that in our community. So of course, he went to Norcor for that. And I believe he also had fentanyl in his system. I'm waiting on the talks, apologies for that. But fentanyl is the biggest player when it comes to impaired driving. And typically what I've interdicted is that we have a lot of folks that are coming through our area in our community. And not only do they have fentanyl, but they have firearms. So they're impaired with fentanyl, with firearms, coming here looking for individuals to sell to. So that is the trend that I'm seeing. But specifically for your question, fentanyl is the biggest factor. And September 1 of this year, Governor Kotek, she signed back into effect that now that possession will now be a unclassified misdemeanor. Not with the purpose of arresting people and them going to jail, but more so of giving us more opportunity to be able to interact with those folks and steer them to get help. So hopefully that's how that pans out for us.
Thank you. I appreciate that. As well, on the 60% that are more the traditional sort of alcohol-based impairment DUIs, do you feel that there's anything the city council or the city can do to assist you in preventing anybody from getting behind a wheel? I know we've received some insight from Chief Holste on this in the past. Is there anything we can do to assist you to get less people off the road? Do you just see this as you're doing a good job recognizing those that are impaired and it's simply that, or is there anything that we can do to assist?
As far as the alcohol crisis and people driving impaired based on alcohol, about 3-4 years ago, I would have said it's mainly because we might have some of the bars over serving. But in the past 2 years, that's not what it's been. It's been folks coming from other communities from across the river or to our east. They're already coming here intoxicated, and we just happen to catch them. A lot of them are coming to, like, they're going to the gas stations or they're going to the supermarkets to get more. I know when individuals are driving from the bars and they're a designated driver, I've stopped a multitude of them. I don't give them a ticket. I say, you're the designated driver, you get a pass. We're encouraging actually roadside folks to get a designated driver. Hey, but I can't say that I have any recommendation for the council. I think we're doing a really good job of just getting the word out and letting folks know. We'll give you a pass, even if you're speeding, you do some minor infraction, but as long as you are the designated driver for folks, that is more important than anything else. And a lot of the folks too, Councilor, when they do get arrested for driving under the influence of alcohol, we get them to the sheriff's office, and instead of taking them to jail, we give them an opportunity to call someone. And 99% of those folks get on the phone and they call someone who comes and gets them within 20 minutes. So my question is always, why did you call that person to pick you up from the bar? So I don't know that we, as a council, as a community, as a police department, I think we're doing everything that we can, and just getting the word out the way that we're doing, I think it's fine. So hopefully this year, our numbers are rock bottom, because people know that we're looking for that and they take the initiative just to get a designated driver or just be mindful.
Thank you so much for that valuable insight. And again, congratulations to the police department and to yourself for these awards.
Thank you.
Travis, did you have another comment?
As you're all out dealing with multiple members of our community that have a variety of needs, can you maybe talk about some of the resources that you all offer, or if you can help us understand what are other additional resources that you all wish you had at your availability that this council can help steer, whether that's more support for mental health, just what are additional resources that we could focus on that could help you give folks the tools that they need in order to be successful?
Well, the way I look at it is once someone is apprehended for impaired driving, the system actually kind of guides them into some assistance. So, you know, if you first-time offender for diversion programs, you have to go through a program and an evaluation. So we've done a really good job in the state of Oregon to have that kind of set in place to where your first offense that we actually can guide you and see and you get evaluated to see if your level of drinking might be, you know, of an abuse of alcohol daily or monthly or weekly or so forth. So we do a good job in Oregon overall on that. So it's not like you got a DUI for whatever impairment and you go to jail and then you're just kicked loose. There's definitely steps where people must follow through to actually meet the diversion program, which is great. I mean, I think that's where we kind of measure 110 failed is we we had the right idea, but there was nothing in place to hold them accountable to the treatment programs where the implied consent DUI part of that there is. You get diversion, but you must meet these requirements to actually at the end of the day be completed. So we've done a good job with that. So.
Sergeant Shaley submits weekly reports to us of just the overall stats of what's happening, the calls that you're all responding to. And there was one specific incident that was, it just made me think, and I think it's really helpful for folks to understand how you have to be quick on your feet and thinking about the resources that are available. And it was somebody had shoplifted from Rosars. And so I had asked another follow-up question was, you know, were they stealing groceries? Like, can you help us understand that piece? So can you just talk about, you know, if you find that someone is food challenged, right? What are some of the resources that you all connect those individuals with?
What's up?
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So we do have a lot of folks that do that. So I can tell you typically what's done by members of our department. Deputy Pete Hughes, who is the school resource officer, he speaks to this a lot when I do presentations there. I tell him not to, but he does. When we get people that are caught stealing, if they're stealing food, I can tell you what I do. I write them a citation for theft 3, and I go in my pocket. I buy the food for them, and I give them the food. I've watched Sergeant Rivera do it. Sergeant Polito has done it. About half of our department, I have physically watched do it. I think I've done that in my time here maybe 10, 12 times. There's no receipt handed to Chief Olsley. There's no fanfare. Folks come into our community and they come here because we as a department, we don't treat them bad like they would in Portland, Gresham. If there was something, a resource where we had some kind of maybe voucher, 10, 20, 15, $30, so we can say, hey, you can have this, but you can only purchase food. You cannot purchase cigarettes, alcohol, or anything. It has to actually be food items. That would help. We don't have to do 50 or 60 because then we don't want it to be a thing where people come and abuse the system. A little $20, that would be good. We're still going to do the law enforcement portion of it. Here's your citation. We're not going to take you to jail. Here goes $20. Now you can have some food. So that is something that we do. If the council can do that, I don't know, that would be helpful.
Yeah. And a lot of those too, the thefts you see, like the theft 3s and stuff, there's a lot of those are just random things taken. You know, it's really not food related. And even like a Rosars and Safeway, and when a theft of food, it's sometimes like a whole shopping cart of, we've had everything up to, I think, $500-600. So it's not the I survived today. It's, you know, just leaving something with like a whole thing of meat and shrimp and all the high-end foods and then walking away, and then they can't put it back on the shelf, unfortunately, after the fact. So, you know, we do get, like he said, you know, those certain situations where, you know, you buy them a deli sandwich or something quick and easy. So yeah, definitely.
I appreciate the compassion shown and just the willingness to help another human, right? And the humanness and to help someone within your community. So thank you.
The follow-up to Councilor Spina's question about fentanyl, is there a way, and you don't have to answer right now, is there a way to reduce the demand in the marketplace, perceived or real demand, for there to be a market for that product in the river? You don't have to answer right now.
I mean, he's the expert on that, but I would say
if there was a way to reduce that.
fentanyl has been that, he would call it like kind of a mix where you can have a low level of methamphetamine or cocaine and you mix the fentanyl to stretch your drugs because fentanyl is so heightened. So that's really the key. That's really the factor of, in my opinion. He could have more, but just for those low level dealers, is to stretch their product even farther.
So I'm wondering if we could make it so this community is not viewed as a market to them, so they will come around.
I think also some of the thing with fentanyl is it's so cheap, and that's what makes it so available. I mean, anybody can purchase it. I mean, we're talking about a little pill, but the devastating effects of that little pill is enormous. And so when things are so cheap like that, it's hard to stop it. So that's the hurdle that we have to overcome.
And we definitely have seen with with the passing of the House Bill 110, we did legalize it wasn't legal, but it wasn't a crime. And all law enforcement pretty much said if you've got a user amount in your pocket, just walk away. And it made it available, and people, and that's why we're seeing it more in impaired driving. I think they just got to the point where it's just it's easy to use because there's no consequence, if that makes sense. And I'm not saying in a bad way, but I think it's when things become legalized, quote unquote, it has more opportunity for people to use. So,
And the thing about it, it's also economical for folks, for a drug dealer. You can go to the city of Portland and you can buy a fentanyl pill for $1. You come to Hood River, you can sell it for maybe $3. The further east you go from purchasing something for $1 to where now each pill is now $5. Over the past, I think, 3 months, we've interdicted, I think, 3 high-level, we would say mid dealers. A gentleman and his wife came in our community. He had a bunch of fentanyl pills. Then I arrested him again for the same thing. So now he has 2 possession delivery charges for fentanyl. We think he'll be going to prison here shortly, but that's the folks that we're having in the community. And again, it's like Sergeant Rivera said, it's that small of a pill. If you can buy it for $1 and then sell it for $4, that's a good profit. So the biggest thing that we have to combat it right now is just us being proactive. Just letting folks know, if you come in our community selling fentanyl, we will arrest you and we will do our part. The judicial system will do whatever they do. But I think just to make our community a no-fly zone for that is just our best defense at this point.
Sure. Yeah, I was wondering if there's ways to either knock that margin down so they can't make money by doing it, or reduce the demand to a point where it's not even economical to show up. So if there's a way to do that, we'll solve it.
Well, I think we've had a very good conversation, so thank you all.
Well, thank you, yeah.
We'll let you get back to work and have a good night. So now we are moving into 2 different public hearings. So we're going to start with the Urban Renewal Agency Governing Board membership. And I've got a script in front of me. So good evening, everyone. We are going to convene this public hearing to consider proposed ordinance 2080 municipal code amendment to chapter 2.56, which makes the City Council the Urban Renewal Agency Board. Because this ordinance will amend the Hood River Municipal Code, we will provide a public hearing prior to adoption. Here is the schedule of how we will proceed this evening. First, we will hear a brief report from staff explaining the proposed code amendment and its implications. This will be followed by any questions council may have about the proposal. Second, we will open the floor to any public testimony on the proposed ordinance. That would be testimony on any side of the question, for, against, or neutral. The council can ask any clarifying questions of people who testify tonight, and if there are a lot of people who wish to testify, we may impose a time limit on testimony. Third, after public testimony is complete, the council will discuss the proposal, deliberate, and act on any motion that might be made. Does anyone have any questions about the process? No one raise their hand online, Jim? No. Okay, so we will begin with Will Norris.
Great. Thank you. City Councilors, Ordinance 2080 is one step in the larger review of the Urban Renewal Agency's governance structure, bylaws, and administration. This ordinance specifically transfers the URA's governing board to be the City Council, which is a structure used by approximately 3/4 of other Oregon urban renewal agencies. We talked about this at 2 prior meetings, and then also went out and got input from other overlapping districts before the council directed staff to come back with an ordinance making this change. In addition to that primary action, we're also taking this opportunity to remove some outdated language that was from the late 80s. Just was associated with the creation of the Columbia Cascade districts, no longer relevant, and it's good cleanup to get that out of our municipal code. This ordinance also has an effective date of January 1st, 2025. And that's to allow the port commissioners to see out the current term. We usually move over governing boards with the calendar year. And so this sticks with that past practice and pattern. And it allows, if there's any more waterfront urban renewal issues that may come up over the next 6 or 7 months, the port commissioners would still be here to have their voice heard on those matters. So after this ordinance, we'll move on to bylaws and all. I expect to have that discussion brought at the May 13th meeting. So with that, I'll pass it over to any public testimony if there's any, and answer any questions that the council may have.
Thank you, Will. Any questions for Will? Let's start Paul or Doug online.
None from me.
Hearing none from Paul. Any questions? Okay. So we will take any public testimony. Are any of you folks here for this public hearing? Okay. Jen, anyone online? No. Okay. Well, that certainly makes it simple. So I guess we will close the public hearing and council will deliberate. Correct? Grant, do you want to start?
I'll move to have the first read ordinance 2080 by title only, transferring government board membership of the Hood River Urban Renewal Agency to the City of Hood River Council effective January 1st, 2025.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion from Grant and a second from Gladys to move, to have the first reading by title only for ordinance 2080, transferring the governing board membership of the Hood River Urban Renewal Agency to the City Council effective January 1, 2025. So all of those in favor?
Aye.
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 I vote aye online. Paul online votes aye.
Okay, I'm also voting aye, so that is 5 votes yes, none opposed, no abstentions. So that'll move to city recorder, correct, Jen? Awesome. Okay. Thank you, Will. The efficient one. So it's hard to juggle everything when you're in charge. So next we've got public hearing about declaring property surplus and authorizing the sale or lease of tax lot 500 to Big River Community Land Trust. Also a public hearing that I'm going to read again. So good evening, everyone. We are going to convene this public hearing to consider the proposed resolution 2024, proposal to declare a small parcel of city-owned property tax lot 500 surplus and authorize its conveyance to the Big River Community Land Trust to construct an affordable single-family dwelling. Just before the proposed conveyance, the resolution proposes also to convey an 18-inch deep by 32-foot long easement across the southern boundary of tax lot 500 to the abutting property for access purposes. This conveyance and easement are authorized by ORS 221.725 and 271.310 after public hearing on the proposal. Here's a schedule of how I proceed this evening. First, we will hear a brief report from staff explaining the proposed conveyance and easement and the purpose for both. This will be followed by any questions council may have about the proposal. Second, we will open the floor to any public testimony on the proposed resolution. This would be testimony on any side of the question, for, against, or neutral. The council can ask any clarifying questions of people who testify tonight, and if there are a lot of people who wish to testify, we may impose a time limit on testimony. Third, after public testimony is complete, the council will discuss the proposal, deliberate, and act on any motion that might be made. Does anyone have any questions about the process? Great, then we will begin. Abigail, it looks like you're taking this.
I'm ready. Thank you, Councilor Saunders. Thank you, everyone in council. I am here tonight for this is, if you think this is something you've heard before, it actually is. This is the third time that we've brought this particular parcel or pieces of this parcel to you. You might remember that Big River Community Land Trust, which is a private nonprofit seeking to provide housing for households earning between 80 and 120% of the area's median family income, identified a parcel that the city owns in the county on Tucker Road. It was a pressure release valve area that we reviewed, and you as council passed a resolution back in April of 2022 to donate that land to Big River. Then a year ago, in April 2023, as they were doing their due diligence and survey work, they realized that there was what we've been calling a gap tract connected to this parcel. So Big River Community Land Trust brought in surveyors and others to determine that this piece of land actually belongs to the city. So we're here tonight to take an action to actually dedicate or donate that particular piece of land. I think it's about, I wrote it down and now I forgot it, but it's about 6,000 square feet. Sorry, it's 0.04 acres. So the whole thing is, the original parcel was 0.7 acres. So every foot counts in this small parcel, and I'm excited to see what Big River Community Land Trust can do with this piece of land. So I'm happy you're here to answer any questions. Otherwise, I've got one important piece, and this is that for Big River Community Land Trust, Anna Cavalieri has worked as their pro bono attorney, has worked very closely with the city attorney, Dan Cairns, to work with the neighbors for an easement that allows for their driveways actually on the parcel. So my thanks to Anna and to Dan, who have worked really hard to negotiate this this particular easement that's also included in the resolution.
Great. Thank you, Abigail. Council, any questions in person? Doug, Paul?
No questions from me. Thank you.
Awesome. And are you folks here comment on this one? So if you want to just come up, I think it's a small enough group, we can just add you up.
Hi, I'm Alicia Sherburne. I'm the executive director for Big River Community Land Trust. And I think when this whole thing started a year ago, which was a little before I came on, I don't think anybody realized it was going to be quite this big of an effort to get all of this taken care of. So I mostly just wanted to give a public thank you to the city and everybody who's been working with us to get this just done and taken care of so that we can actually move forward and start building. I know my board, as well as myself, are chomping at the bit to get actually moving and put a house on it. So thank you again, and I hope that in the very near future, we can have you all out to the parcel for a groundbreaking. So thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Jen, anyone online? No. Okay. So again, we will close this public hearing and council will deliberate. Does anyone want to start? Let's go Gladys to Grant.
Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing for me.
Doug, do you have anything?
I just want to echo what Abigail said. I really appreciate all the hard work that city staff, city attorney Dan Cairns, and everybody put into this. Looking forward to the motion.
Paul, do you have anything?
Nothing for me. Thank you, Megan.
Okay, then I think we are ready for a motion.
I move to approve resolution 2024-04 designating city-owned tax lot 500 as surplus and authorizing its sale to Big River Community Land Trust.
Second.
Okay, moved by Gladys, seconded by Grant to approve resolution 2024-04 designating city-owned tax lot 500 as surplus and authorizing its sale to Big River Community Land Trust. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Paul votes aye.
Okay, and all those opposed? I vote aye, so again, passes. So perfect, thank you all. Thanks for being here. Okay, so moving on to the consent agenda. Does anyone have any questions?
Can you please pull the OLCC permit application?
You bet. Any questions on consent agenda items 1 or 2? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I move we approve consent agenda items 1 and 2.
I will second.
Okay, moved by Grant, seconded by Doug to approve the amended consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Paul votes aye.
Aye. Consent agenda passes. Item number 3, the OLCC permit. Is there discussion?
Question. Just full disclosure, this restaurant is, I don't have any fiscal interest in this restaurant outside of their leasing the restaurant. It's on my property, my business property. So that's it.
Thank you, Grant. Does that change anything for voting, Abigail?
It may, if we don't have the required number of votes, we can use the rule of necessity in order to ask Councilor Polson to make a vote because we don't have a very large number of councilors today. But let's see where things are shaking out. And Dan is standing by if we need advice on this.
That's good. All right, were you intending to abstain? Was that your comment or?
We'll see.
Okay, I mean, you're intending to, may bring you back, is that?
I have no fiscal interest in the business, outside them just being on my property.
Okay,
So
just a disclosure, if you will. Okay, that's great, thank you.
if I'm agree.
Okay, Gladys, did you have anything?
Well, I'm gonna be abstaining from that, from this permit, so.
Okay, well, do we have a motion to approve the OLCC permit for Kirpas?
I will make a motion
Folks
to
online,
approve.
right?
Yeah, I will make a motion to approve the OLCC permit. Trying to see what the name of the business is, because what page is it on the packet, Megan?
47, but I think we can go with that motion.
Okay.
You're comfortable there.
Okay, I just found it, but if that's sufficient, then yes.
Okay,
approve it.
is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, moved by Doug, seconded by Grant to approve the OLCC permit for Kirpas Indian Cuisine. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I will be voting aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
I will be abstaining from the OLCC permit application approvals. This is not a reflection of these businesses or their owners, rather than I object the fact that we don't have enough transportation options for people who visit these establishments. We just had our police department in here talking about some of the consequences. As a result, they may end up getting behind the wheel and putting themselves and others at risk. If we and our community partners are able to provide adequate transportation during late evenings and weekends, I will be happy to start approving OLCC applications again.
Gladys, OLCC permit application for Kirpas has been passed. On to action items, we've got landmarks, board member appointments. Dustin, are you over? You're usually over there. Come on up.
Thank you, Council. You have before you a request to reappoint 2 members. You have ongoing vacancies for your Landmarks Review Board. This group is responsible for some of the administration of your historic district, including downtown and individual landmarks throughout the city of historic cultural significance. 2 members as an ongoing and rotating cast and positions that come due. You have 2 that are currently up for reappointment. One being Will Ennis. Will is your newest member. He took the position that was formerly occupied by Bill Pattison, who passed away. So Will's only served for 1 year. The other position is occupied by Cindy Walrich, your previous planning director for 28 years. We have an ongoing application and ongoing ask for volunteers for this committee. For about 3 years, we had vacancies on there that we couldn't fill. So you have options to reappoint or to go out and continue to look for additional applicants, and we will hold our customary interview selection process. But the request tonight, given that we would Will has not served a complete term, it would be nice to have him serve a complete cycle, and Cindy's previous experience establishing this group has some unique qualifications that as we move into some of our code and development application will be very handy to have someone with the backstory of the establishment of this particular group, which is embedded in the zoning code.
Thank you, Dustin. Any questions for him, folks online? Okay, I had one quick question for you. We've got ongoing vacancies, so is there like a continuous announcement if you want interested applications or?
Yeah, we have vacancies. We always advertise online. Whether they're vacant or not, we always want to know and make sure that people have the opportunity to put in their name, not just upon advertisement. So.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad to see the questions.
Yeah, are these positions advertised to the mayor's equity group? Maybe they can share within their networks.
Yeah, I think since that group is reconvened, I think it was an opportunity in I think in previous iterations of it, but I don't think we haven't gone out and advertised. However, that group, I think we expect to have some seat time as we get into code, which will be on April 22nd. We'll talk to you about that, but we expect to have an opportunity to speak with them about what does zoning mean in this year. So that'd be a good opportunity.
Anything from anyone else? Maybe ready for a motion?
I move the mayor appoint Cindy Walbridge and Will Ennis to the Landmarks Review Board for 3-year terms.
Second.
Moved by Gladys, seconded by Grant to have the mayor appoint Cindy Walbridge and Will Ennis to the Landmarks Review Board for 3-year terms. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Paul votes aye.
And I also vote aye. So motion passes. Dustin, if you could please pass on our thanks for folks continuing to serve on this. It is wonderful for our community. So let's see, that is all of that. So
A quick comment. I just wanted, I was giggling towards the end of the motion. It wasn't that I thought it was funny. It was there is a typo on our packet and I almost read the typo and that made me giggle. So I just want to clarify.
Thank you, Gladys. Let's see. I think we're on to city recorder.
Yes, I would like to entertain a motion for the first reading of ordinance 2080 by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Mixing it up. Moved by Grant, seconded by Doug to read ordinance 2080 for the first time by title only.
All right, roll call. Counselor Polson.
Aye.
Counselor Rivera.
Yes.
Counselor Stepina.
Aye.
Counselor Saunders.
Yes.
Your Honor.
I vote aye.
Ordinance 2080, an ordinance amending Title 2, Administration and Personnel, Chapter 2.56, Urban Renewal Agency of the Hood River Municipal Code by transferring the powers of the City Urban Renewal Agency to the City Council.
Thank you, Jen. Ordinance 2080 has passed its first reading by title only and will be brought up again at the next meeting. Awesome. Okay, thank you. Then we're on to city manager comments.
Thank you, Counselor Saunders. Two very quick things. One is the county held its special meeting to learn about annexation on March 25th. And we are now confirmed for a joint meeting between the county and the city on June 3rd. I don't have the start time or location yet, but it will be late afternoon, early evening, like 4 or 5 p.m. And my second update is, you might remember the Hood River Library was here a couple weeks ago and provided you with their Hood River Reads book, Beloved Beasts. I wanted to remind you that the final event is this Sunday, April 14th at 2 p.m.
Thank you, Abigail.
Thanks.
Committee reports. So let's start with Grant.
Had the Region 1 ACT meeting a week ago. We did some DEI stuff. They're still working on figuring out ODOT's still figuring out their funding. And that's all there is. There's nothing else to it but that.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Gladys?
What DEI stuff did you do?
Just general
Learning about it.
awareness, intersectionality stuff.
Thank you. Yes, I joined the Mid-Columbia Community Action Council Board. The Gloria Center is officially open. So just want to give Kenny and the entire MCAC team a big shout out. This has been 3+ years in the making, and really grateful that the center is now open. There have been several members that that were houseless and have now been permanently housed. So I think that's something to absolutely celebrate. In addition to the Gloria Center being open, the annex, which there's one side that houses single individuals and another section that houses families. I can't read my own gibberish right now, but I was quite astonished as to how many kiddos are currently houseless and living within the annex. So definitely something for us to think about. How do we replicate something like this or this kind of resource here within Hood River? It is such a need. There are many individuals that are currently staying and will travel back and forth just because we don't have those services here or those resources here in town. There will be a grand opening of the Gloria Center on May 31st at 11 a.m. So be looking forward to that invite from Kenny. Would love to have as many counselors there supporting these efforts. That is everything.
Thank you, Gladys. Doug, any committee reports?
None to report for this week, Megan. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul, any committee reports?
Yeah, this is really a report from my Equity Advisory Council, so I'll fit it in now if that's okay. I would like for us to consider offering free parking vouchers to Indians visiting our fair city. I know that there's a brief write-up in the packet. I'm happy to discuss that going forward, but I wanted to bring it to you guys for the first time. Grant and I had a brief discussion about it, but I think it would be a nice gesture, and I'm happy to answer questions now or at a later time.
Paul, I will note there is no write-up in the packet, so do you want to do a brief proposal or bring this to a next meeting?
What I, as your city manager,
Yeah,
are looking for is there's enough interest for us to do some research and bring it back to you.
Yeah, so deciding that would be helpful. Is everybody, any questions about the idea, or shall we go ahead and bring something more firm back to us?
I'm in full support and look forward to having something at our next meeting, and also being really mindful of how do we bring in our partners into this conversation, as they are, you know, the hub for the 4 treaty tribes that are here in the gorge.
I will add that I reached out to the governor. Has a special, basically a liaison person with the local tribes, not all Indians in general, but with local tribes liaison, and we have not yet connected. I'm hoping to join the conversation.
Grant, were you about to say something?
Yeah, Paul and I had talked about it somewhat briefly. I've been in other meetings, so I haven't had much time to work on it or think about it. A concern that I have as a policy, if we explore this, is I understand the intent, I understand the history, et cetera, et cetera. However, going forward as a policy in the future, the concern I have is creating an other or a different group that gets different treatment than other people. I understand trying to correct historical wrongs to get more on a footing of equality, equity. However, I think that as a policy, we can address those things and create policy that enacts more justice for everyone in the long term than picking out groups here and there for different reasons.
Thank you, Grant. Doug, any thoughts?
I'm in support of this being formalized.
Okay. I guess I'll be the fourth vote of I'm willing to learn more and have it on a future agenda. So thanks for bringing that up, Paul. Anything else for committee reports?
No.
Okay. Anything for mayor comments?
Abigail, was there anything I was supposed to remember?
No, just an eclipse report.
The Eclipse report is that there was no traffic going, but there is legit jam-packed traffic on the interstate in Vermont, which never happens. So I apologize for being on the phone, but it's been an adventure. We're in our 4th hour of returning home from a 2-hour trip.
Wow. Well, thank you for making the time for us. Did you at least get to see it?
It was so spectacular and perfect conditions.
Glad to hear it. Thank you, Paul. Council comments. Let's
Thanks.
start with Doug.
I don't have much for this week. I do want to thank Councilor Saunders for being the presiding officer over this. I think you're doing a great job, and I believe everybody would echo that as well. So thank you, Megan, for leading us into this today.
Thanks, Doug. Gladys?
I will echo Councillor Stepina, Madam President. What a historical moment.
Grant? You don't have to continue.
Yay. When I was also chatting with the mayor, it jogged my memory on something that had been brought to us in the past as a conceptual thing, and that was the concept or recommendation that was brought to us on having a dedicated taxi stand somewhere. So if somebody needed a ride, they knew where to go to, so they were not DUIing. Once we feel like discussing that more at some point, I would be interested in exploring that as a possibility and creating that space and place for people to go to get home safely in the future.
Gladys, it looks like you have something to add.
I want to say that, didn't we discuss this with Amy Schlappy? Wasn't she here talking about it not that long ago?
It was when she and the taxi drivers and companies were here.
In December.
In December.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I would absolutely welcome that conversation. What else can we do to add a designated stop?
In that vein, when they were here, was it that they were going to propose a location or they wanted future conversation? Like, what was the next step at that point?
I believe they had, I'm sorry, Council, go ahead. They had a number of recommendations. That was one of them. And the spot they had identified was in front of Visit Hood River. So on near 2nd and Cascade.
Okay, so, well, I guess there's not a whole 4, but if there was interest, what would it look like for folks to move this?
I actually contacted Amy Schlappy last week, Executive Director of Columbia Area Transit, asking for when they think they might next have an update for you. So I will follow up with Amy about their interest in that. And then we as staff, if there's enough of you who are truly interested in pursuing this, we as staff could do some research on this and bring you some options as well.
Okay, reading the room, Doug or Paul, are you interested in having some staff time move towards that, or?
Yes, I'd like to move towards that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if it's cart before the horse. I know part of the data that we expect to see as for the output of the joint sort of task force that CAT has with the taxi providers. I know that was an initial ask. I'd like to see what due diligence is done to say that task will increase ridership. I think during if memory recall, if I recall our conversation, it is a spot that generates revenue. It's not a loading zone, correct? Abigail?
I don't think it's loading zone. There's probably a loading zone spot on that block that could be repurposed for that, but I'd want to definitely do some research before I commit to anything.
I would definitely like to see how it would, what the correlation is to ridership. If there is one, I'm definitely interested. I will say as well, since we're speaking about this, want to give thanks to Matt Barman for, I've seen that they're distributing posters to local businesses that talk about, the rider options that we have in Hood River for, there's a QR code for CAT, there's phone numbers to call for taxi providers, et cetera. So I think that's a step in the right direction based on the output of that last conversation as well. So just wanted to acknowledge that.
Thank you, Doug. Abigail, it sounds like there's interest in hearing and the next update, learning some more, getting some feedback, but maybe not quite jumping to here's your space tomorrow.
Thank you, Counselor Saunders.
That's clear.
We can, I'll connect back with Amy and then we and staff will, it might not be the next meeting, but we'll try to bring you something.
Okay, great. Thank you. And let's see, we were moving around. Did I get to everyone already? No. Grant? Oh, that was it. Sorry. We sidetracked myself. So my council comment, really just quick. The county meeting is next week and I will be missing that. So if anyone else is interested in going, I know we're also presenting to them in some form. So otherwise, we are on to executive session and we do have one and I have another script for that. So the city council will now meet in executive session pursuant to Oregon Revised Statute 192.6601D to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations. Representatives of the news media and designated staff are allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room and we will end the public broadcast. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made nor final action taken in executive session. The executive session is anticipated to last
8.5 minutes.
8.5 minutes. At the end of the executive session, the city council meeting will be adjourned and no action